Hey everybody, this is Alex Merced from alexmercedcoder.com, and this video what I'm going to do is talk about a lot of really cool tools that all developers should be aware of and skills that they should know. So basically, probably if you're someone who's just getting into software development, web development, this is going to be really useful for you because these are a lot of these tools I didn't know about right away, so I just kind of discovered them as I went along. So hopefully this will save you some time. Okay, the two tools probably are going to be some of the more well-known ones. And it's going to be GitHub and CodePen. Okay, so of course, GitHub or GitLab or any of the other online repositories are great places for you to be able to share your code, make sure you back up your code, and also, of course, just using Git in general helps you keep track of your versions. So there's Git on your local computer where you keep track of the versions and you commit your changes. But then there's your online repository like GitHub or GitLab where you will then also create a remote copy of your repository with all your code, with all the keeping track of all your changes, and it's really useful. And then GitHub is especially awesome because it'll actually host the website for you. So if it's a front-end project where basically you're not using kind of any back-end databases that need to be hosted on GitHub, you can use GitHub to host your website, and it's really cool for making a portfolio, making basic projects. So GitHub is a must for any developer. Netlify is awesome. Also another great way to deploy websites. So with a free account, you can deploy front-end projects pretty quickly. You just literally drag and drop a folder or connect your GitHub repo, and the website is live. It's pretty awesome. So those are really good for just getting your website out there, so people can see the website you've created if you're getting into web development. But what if you're not getting into web development? What if you're just, you are learning Python or you're learning Go and you're more getting into sort of automation or into desktop software development or into systems development? Well, then there's Repl.it, which can also be used for web development. But what Repl.it does is creates an environment in pretty much any language you'd want. And then basically, instead of you having to download all the software on your computer to develop software in that language, you can work straight from Repl.it. You can actually deploy your programs from Repl.it. You can deploy your website from Repl.it or Repl.it. And, that is really awesome. And it's also a great way to learn. So if you want to learn a new language, save your time in the setup so you can just focus on learning the syntax and the basic ideas, you could just spin up a quick, Go REPL or a quick Ruby REPL or whatever. And they actually have REPL environments in many of the popular frameworks. So you can create a React environment, you can create a Python Django environment. So that way you can actually build stuff out in these frameworks much simpler. So that is really cool, okay? Now, if you really want to kind of do more advanced stuff, Linode and DigitalOcean are a very amazing host where you can start what's called a virtual private server. So basically they create this little virtual private server that has nothing on it. So it's up to you to kind of literally do everything. Install all the software on the computer, set up the web server, whatnot. I highly recommend everyone does this at least once, even if it's just for a small project, just to know what it takes to do it. And your basic server, your cheapest server, which is great for practicing development, is like $5 a month. So and then there's plenty of places where you can get credits where you can get your first month free and really kind of pick up some really useful skills by working with a virtual private server. So that's Linode and DigitalOcean. There's also Mongo Atlas. So there's two types of databases: SQL databases, relational databases, and then there's NoSQL databases, which basically, think of it as if you made JavaScript objects a database, or that's literally what it is. Now, generally when you make a database, with a project, you sit there, you create your local database, you connect your project to your local database, you make sure your project's working, and then you have to go create a new database on your server, get your code onto that server, connect the code to it, so there's all these extra steps. What if your server would just work right out of the box? That's what Mongo Atlas does. It actually will host your MongoDB server at prices as cheap as free. And basically you can just connect your project to it. So you can just focus on developing your project and you don't have to worry necessarily about the creation of the database and all that stuff. It's all kind of done by Mongo Atlas. So that's a great service. Other ones are RunKit. So if you want to start learning things like Express.js, which is a backend framework, RunKit works kind of like CodePen.io or where in a sense where it creates a playground where you can practice Express.js, except it has the Express environment built in, so you can actually do a lot of that back-end stuff. So there's RunKit, and again, Repl can do a lot of this stuff. It can create a web development playground, kind of like CodePen.io does, and you can create an Express playground like RunKit does. But again, these are more specialized situations that have more features for those specialized situations. Well, Repl creates lots of different playgrounds for pretty much any language you can think of, which is awesome. So those are great tools for, learning development. So these create great environments for learning development. There are plenty of other tools that you need to know. Now, depending on what programming language is, you'll learn a lot of tools that are specialized for that programming language. But there's also Stack Overflow, which is basically the main hub on the internet for people to ask programming questions. So you ask your questions there, make sure you see how other people ask questions, get an idea of the culture. I wouldn't rush to ask your own questions until you've done a thorough search to see, make sure that no one else has already asked your question. And also participate a little bit, because like most online communities, if you just kind of jump in there like a whirling dervish, you might not get the most friendly reception. Cool. Other really useful, and then of course there's plenty of websites where are good for doing like coding challenges. There's like hackerrank.com, codewars.com, sololearn.com. These are great websites where you can find coding challenges. They also have coding playgrounds. But more importantly, it's the challenges, so that way you get a score. You can improve your skills by having these challenges to try to overcome, and those are really useful. CodeWars has it in pretty much like any language. HackerRank has it in a lot of the main languages. It's a little bit more well known, but I recommend having a profile on both pages and starting to build up your rank on both pages. It's just a nice, cool merit badge to have. So I think that's a pretty good start. I mean, there's plenty of more tools. I mean, what you can use as a web designer, as a software designer, and the tools available to you are endless. But with these tools, especially if you're new, this will kind of give you a solid foundation, and that way you don't go through too much trial and error before you discover some of these tools exist. Because I know if some of them I knew existed beforehand, life would have been a lot easier. And on that note, make sure if you're doing web development to learn how to use Chrome developer tools. Using things like Chrome developer tools are going to make your life a lot easier when it comes to testing out your website, testing out APIs, make sure that everything's just working fine without having to go through a more painful process of saving and reopening and whatnot. And then also Postman for testing out your APIs. So as you get into backend work and you're creating APIs, you're going to want to test them, and you could also use curl in your command line to do so, but Postman gives you sort of a nice environment to do so. So make sure you learn about Postman. So you have a great day. I'll see you. This is Alex Merced from alexmercedcoder.com.